What a pleasure to have you with us. Good evening, 6 p.m. and for the first time ever, MahalaMonday on a 6 p.m. on a Monday, 21st of November. So it's certainly a date you got to remember and dot it down. Get a tattoo if you have to. But it is going to be an exciting episode as always, and what a privilege to have you with us here. Now, of course, as you know, it's an interactive show, so we look forward to all your contributions, your questions and comments. Please send those through to us. The details, as always, at the bottom of your screen. And of course, it is the first time we're doing a show live at this time of the day. As you can see, we've got quite a dais here next to us. We're going to introduce you to all these wonderful people. But first, I wanted, and I'm going to apologize straight off the bat because my manners are back to front, but I want to just say hi to my co-conspirator, Rhoda, who is here first. How's it going? Are you all right?
Good. I'm excited having the guest here today, so quite excited.
We've got a
an old friend, yes.
Old friend,
Yes, exactly.
Family. Yeah, friend of the show.
Oh, welcome everyone.
Dr. Marlene Le Roux is with us, which is absolutely fantastic, and what a privilege it is to have you back here.
For
Thank
me
you so
as
much.
well. For me as well. With new friends.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And Paula Pristini is also joining us, and we're gonna talk about why you here and all these wonderful things. But let's get straight into it. Today, this is a very important topic. Now, as you know, of course, the month of November is Disability Awareness Month. So when Rhoda and myself and the producer, we all sat down, we said, this is what we're going to talk about. And you can go back and go have a look at our show because it's truly, truly important. Now, also part of the show tonight is Jabbar, which is our interpreter, and you will see him there this evening. So very important, though, when it comes to how society moves on, it is always reflected firstly in the arts. The arts has got its pulse firmly, and I'm only saying this as an artist. The artist has got, I'm biased in this, I'm biased in this.
He's very biased on this one.
And the reason is because arts had its finger firmly on the pulse. You can just look at South Africa's history. Music, theatre, all of this is what it happens. And it brings the question, when we talk inclusivity, when we talk that there shouldn't be barriers and free and options for all, it is not ironic, but it is testament that when it comes to what we're going to talk about is sort of led by the arts sector.
Exactly.
And this is what's happening at Artscape. Now, Marlene is going to correct me, but I believe it's the 8th year it's happening. It's the ArtsAbility Festival. Am I right in saying that when it comes to Artscape, you're on the forefront of this? You're really leading this discussion.
Teamwork, you know me.
I know teamwork, but this is this happening anywhere else in the world?
No, it's just at the moment, I can just say, and we hope with our partnership that we now have, and Paula will say more, that this will definitely be where we're looking at cascading this. And it's not just about the arts, it's also what is around the arts. It's also the space. And it's also about how do you educate people that is part of the arts, which comes with technicians, with project managers, with marketing, everything that's a part of making the artist shine. It's also important to look at how do you look at lights. For instance, strobic lights has an effect on if you have epileptic fit, then that is caused also by strobic lights. So it was a whole education for me to look at, and I can say that well done to the Artscape team that I could lead them, not just about looking at the artist with a disability. We've looked at how do we rig the stage that we don't have, if it's a wheelchair bound artist, that you don't have where you have all the lights and all the rigging that a person can really fall over. All of those things. If you have a blind artist, for instance, how are you going to, in order for that artist to be the best that person be, how are you going to stage that? What is the plotting around that? What is the lighting that's going to shine on that person? If you have a deaf artist, for instance, it's not just the signing interpretation. It is about how do you lead everything around that particular artist so that that artist is firmly feeling that I am being looked after as a professional artist. So it's very important to do that. Now, my background comes also from theatre specifically, but also being part of UWC.
Oh, yeah.
And also being part of a rural girl that has really cut my teeth in the apartheid era about theatre, politics and theatre. Because how did we bring about change in South Africa? It was through singing.
Oh, yeah.
It was through
Oh, yeah.
theatre telling the stories.
So
it was
true.
about all of that. Now we do have a different theatre that we need to look at. We needed to tell the stories of disability rights,
Oh, yeah.
which were never part really about putting persons with disability in the forefront. Being a political activist, I've realized now the space that we need to enter is to look at giving dignity to persons with disability. And what best to do that is through theatre.
Theatre. So sorry, Dougal. For me, this program, obviously, why is it important for Artscape? If you could tell me that, why is it important for Artscape?
Artscape has a history of just being exclusive for just a specific people, from the Nico Milan to Artscape. So important for this program. If you put a minority group that has been totally marginalized, and these are people with disabilities, you immediately looking at really the empowerment and emancipation of a nation.
Yeah.
So true.
And this is what the ArtsAbility Festival is about.
Yeah. So the ArtsAbility Festival, I mean, this is truly fantastic because this is an amazing. Do you know what? I can just, I mean, ArtsAbility, it's access, it's progression, it ticks all those boxes for me personally, and well done. And I mean, plaudits need to be given to actually that we've gotten to the point. But now let me ask you this before we really get into the highlights of the program. Is it 8 years? Is this
It's
the
8 years. It was really, we had getting out of the starting blocks. And just to get everybody, and it takes time. And it's also about persons with disabilities in itself, the confidence. Like we don't have arts in our school generally, the marginalized schools.
Yeah.
Arts is very
true.
elitist. And hence we started because we have a youth schools arts festival where we bring in schools from all over. But I made sure that special needs schools are part of mainstreaming. So it took some time now that it's the highlight in its 8th year. We've also decided that Unmute Dance Company, which was first another company, and because of persons with disability, we have struggles of our own. You know, we don't want to be seen as the medical model, but we do have medical issues. So we will be today okay and tomorrow we won't be okay. So we've decided as a theatre complex that Unmute Dance Company, that is a home for professional artists with disabilities and with non-disabilities, that they must be part of the associated companies. In that way, you are in your face with disabilities.
Yeah.
So in its 8th year now, we've started with having disability rights, but also having uncomfortable conversations.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to ask you, we've just done the introductions, yeah, but we're also looking at discussions where we're really talking about the issues.
It's issues about having equity. For me to be equal to Paula sitting here, I need to have a caliper that costs 60,000 rand. So to be a diva like I'm sitting here, really just to move is to be able to have equity, to have the resources, to be able for Jabbar, that's part of the show, he needs to have a sign language interpreter. That sign language interpreter is about economics. So you can't talk about equality if you don't look at resources. And the resources, it's about you need to budget. So you need to be able to say, you can't budget for a production the same you're going to budget for an ArtsAbility Festival. So we talk about uncomfortabilities. We talk about when we're looking at a carer, there needs to be a carer, there needs to be nutrition. So we use this theatre to talk about uncomfortability. You can't just look at policies in life when you don't look at the implementation thereof. If the policy, we are a country about policies. I say to the president, stop the policies.
Stop the policies.
I say to the academics, stop writing policies anymore. We have enough PhDs about it. It's about if this thesis doesn't put the child and the girl child in the center from the rural areas, who is poor, who has a disability, access to health, access to transport, access to education, this policy is a no-go.
I was going to ask you that. Now, also, Paula's with us here, and we're going to talk about the show and what is being planned, when the festival starts and all of that. But I wanted, because you kind of touched on it, I wanted to ask you this, Marlene, as well. I mean, surely there's now a plethora of policies, as you clearly stated. Has the perception changed from your vantage point? Has the perception changed from society? Are we more comfortable? Are people a bit more progressive? Because surely, when it comes to the rights and making sure things are accessible, everybody should be holding hands here. We just don't need policies. And I mean, some of the policies are contradictory as well as they are. And they're not really pushing the story forward. Are things developing?
I think the most important, you need to have the political willpower. And that is where it comes to employment for young people with disabilities. You can't be your whole life be an intern. And you look at the stats. A young person with disabilities, they sit without a job. We have a law in our country that only 2% you must employ persons with disabilities. What does companies do? They rather pay the fine, but they don't want to employ a person with a disability. So I use myself as the yardstick. I said, hello, don't look away. I'm a woman with a disability, and I'm a woman of color. I run a big company. So there's this young child out there. Give them an opportunity to prove themselves that they can do it. We had internship, we're employing persons with disabilities, and we're an arts company. We don't have the money that big companies. We say to them now, please employ young people with disabilities. It gives young people dignity. It gives them to get out of their houses. It gives them that the sense of I belong. You can't just all the time. There is a vacuum. And that vacuum is you have special needs schools. What happens to that young person after 18 years old? They're trapped in a shack. They're trapped in the household because there's nobody taking them out. So I'm sitting with NEFSAS, the National Fund for Students.
For students,
I made them to write up that the student that apply for the NAFSA's bursary with disabilities, so I work with all the universities at this particular stage, that young person, when they get into the university, that they get an extra amount for the tools that they need, for Braille, for a carer. But where is the bottleneck? The bottleneck is that give at least the special needs schools the tools in order for that young person to complete grade 12. You can't just talk on university level if you don't do the legwork at school level.
It's got to start in the beginning. It's got to start in the beginning. And I know we're going to be talking about that for another hour because you've touched on so many things now, which I think is all hot potatoes. But we are going to have those discussions. We are going to have it. But now, the ArtsAbility Festival. It's happening. It's its 8th year. It is truly a pioneering festival. When do we look forward to the ArtsAbility Festival? When does it kick off? And more importantly, how do you choose productions?
I think what is so good for us is because we have collaborations right through the year. And because we use unmute, because it's again a very important thing, persons with disability must do it also for themselves. Nothing about us without us. I do take a back seat as well, although I am driving it in a way. But unmute will go out to schools, get the productions, have the collaborations with the support. Paula will tell you more about Sensoria X Opera. But we have it's starting on the 29th of November at 7 o'clock at the theatre. We will then go right through to the 3rd of December, 3 o'clock. All productions will start at 7 o'clock. On the 3rd, we will have a beautiful production again where it's about listen hands. Listening to your hands. We are Deaf Awareness Month. What is it to have a 12th language, which is about deafness? It's deaf people, but we don't exercise that. We don't speak about it. We don't use to say you're beautiful. Sign language, is it just the deaf that needs to know about sign language? Or is it about all of society? So we speak about that during this particular disability rights. Then we also, on the 1st of December, at 4 o'clock, we're going to unpack disability rights. What is it that is still holding back? We're going to have mothers talking about children with disabilities. We're going to have disability rights people. We're going to have sensorium that's going to talk about what was the process for them. Because what is the beauty of this particular ArtsAbility Festival? It's all about ability.
Ability. Okay. So on that, obviously,
Fascinating.
I was just going to say now, I know whenever you have a program like that, there must be a theme to it. So what is the theme for this one?
It's empowerment and it's sustainability.
Oh, wow.
And
Beautiful.
if you can't talk about empowerment if it's not sustainable,
Oh, wow.
because it's all interconnected with equity and equality.
Oh, wow. Wow,
So-
wow, wow.
So it all gets underway 29th of November, runs up to the 3rd. There's going to be brilliant productions. There's also going to be some proper discussions. And you've definitely got to be part of this as well, because
Definitely.
this is how we hear voices. And I like what you say. You know what? It's about empowerment. It's about sustainable. Yes, in the 12th language. And we should really make an effort. You should make an effort, just in general terms. All of us should just making the effort. It goes without question. How do people now get tickets? Because I'm going to ask you now, and I'm going to ask you again later. How do people purchase tickets? How do we support this?
It's www.artscape.co.za, or you can phone box office 021 410 9800. And it's also to say that artists with disability and persons with disability is not in a shame, feeling shameful for themselves. No. Sisters and brothers, or whoever you want to be named, LGBTQ plus community, there's a Kyo production as well. We're embracing everybody so that you can come out, enjoy yourself, have fun with us, because it's not just about the medical program.
No, it certainly isn't. All right, and we're going to touch base with Marlene again. So, Marlene, thank you so much. But in the meantime, Rhoda has just swapped shares with Jeron Herman, who has just joined us. And between Jeron and Bola, we're going to be talking about this wonderful production. Now, firstly, Paula, thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for sitting here.
To be here.
And it is absolutely wonderful to have you here in the Mother City, both of you, in fact, as
Thank
well.
you.
So, you're a composer, you're an artistic director.
Yeah,
Yeah, and how's your stay been?
it's been amazing. Every day, we've been here only a few days, and it feels like we've been here months, and in the best possible sense, because Marlene and the team have created an experience for us and facilitated an experience for us that has been mind-boggling. We've been working on Sensorium X, this opera, which literally means at the seat of the senses, for about 4 to 5 years. But due to the pandemic, and due to also the fact that opera in general is not a very accessible field and not necessarily open to all these changes, we've had, a kind of slow process until enter the scene, this dynamo.
Dynamo.
And how she schooled you in?
And we met several years ago, but it really came to this point where we got to this point of needing to kind of mirror the practices of auditions and of who we're really writing this for, which is of course this kind of mixed ability opera setting that is not about, it's first of its kind, but the hope and the passion is that this should not be this should not be so unique.
Yeah.
This should be the norm. And so with Marlene and with our incredible associate director and choreographer Jeron, we've been, and the rest of our team, we've been through an incredible couple days, and it's been a marvel.
Yeah, and I don't know who to ask this to. And Jeron, I might think this is you because you're the choreographer
Sure.
and
Yes.
associate director for this. But how is disability incorporated into
my
this
gosh.
sort of creative process?
Well, we said from the beginning that it was going to be centered. I mean, we have partners from different iterations of the project that have disability in their lives, are disabled themselves. The story is worldwide, as we know. People with disabilities live in the world, right?
Yeah.
So there needs to be it needs to be reflected in art. And as you said too, it's how you know what society is. And so we've said from the get-go that what we do artistically is it's not only talking about accessibility, it's talking about the culture of disability, right? There are things, activations of body and the way that we move or the way that we create community that are inherent to disability that need to be understood by people who are not disabled or don't know that history, that culture. And so through art, we can make it really accessible to folks that don't know that story.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking now, because you guys have had a busy couple of days with auditions.
Yes, we have.
Yes.
Quickly.
I've cried all day. I've cried. Oh my gosh.
Because these are now people auditioning,
Yeah.
Yes.
performers, artists auditioning to be
Yes.
part of this amazing production.
Yes, and South Africa, I mean, Cape Town, they have the talent, they have the juice.
I'm going to stop you there. We own the talent. Let me tell you right now.
We're at the seat of it.
You would have seen it today.
Oh my goodness. Well, yes. I mean, we
Yes.
knew not to expect anything less.
Yeah.
But the way that the culture and the identity of the folks here has really like set on fire what the piece is, and they brought their whole selves. And I think that's one of the things that when we go back to New York, when we go back to other places, to the States, we know now to look for the human and the person, and then their ability, and then their artistry, and then what they give to the opera.
And this is what's beautiful about creating new work is that you do change things. You do create things for muses. And in essence, we're meeting all these muses. And I should say that you know, the writer of this opera who's not able to be with us today is an amazing woman named Brenda Shaughnessy. And she really comes at this libretto from the lived experiences of a mother with a child who's nonverbal and non-ambulatory. And when we began this process, you know, she agreed to go on this journey to kind of open her heart, but then to also create a story that is full of intrigue and love and passion and humor, right? This is not like the kind of thing that you go to and you're just, you know, the entire time. It's life, right? But it's life in its most human sense. And so the story is really about a mother with a child, and it's their love story. And you know, she's a mother who's a scientist and who's working and doesn't necessarily hear how he communicates because, of course, he's not communicating in the traditional sense. And as the story manifests, it's actually the child that manifests the escape from this kind of dystopian reality that they find themselves in. So there's humor, there's science, there's AI, there's, you know, it's a rich world, and that is what I think has been such a joyful experience is to find these people who are going to make this story come to life and also show us things that are not in the story, which of course is the beauty of art, you know?
And I was going to ask you that in the technicality difference there when it comes to the performance, because when you have the audition and with the assumption that it is a traveling production, and we can assume that it is it's going to be sort of tailor-made to where it is, where the production is being played.
Because I think what we've learned is that the processes that Marlene and Artscape has helped us create are in fact very much the reason why we came from New York City, what's considered an artist capital of the world, to Cape Town to learn about what Marlene has put in place. So yes, of course it will, you know, the piece will change because that's what happens when you have different performers, and there's a level of improvisation in that. But at the heart of it, I think what we've learned in these days is how to enter a room, how to create a casting process, how to, you know, how to create a sense of community when in fact we don't have this. And that's, I think, I mean, I just want to say, how special is it that you have a Marlene Le Roux and that you have an Artscape? I just have to say it. It's beautiful.
It's so
Because
true.
Marlene, she did say New York capital, but we know they're second. The city, baby.
Totally fair. Totally fair.
You know what, there.
I stand corrected.
Right. But Marlene, when I mean, for people who've been there, for performers and artists who've now come to the auditions, and here we have two international performers, people who work in this field, and they come from New York, and of course, you know what I mean. Yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is a wonderful production, absolutely mind-blowing. It is just pioneering in so many ways. What has been the sense? Could you gauge a sense of people that walked out of the auditions and the sense of the expectation?
You know, the best part of it is that for this process, is that we as creative persons of Sensorium X Opera, we could feel each other with immediate effect. That's the first process, is that you put your ego outside of the room, and you put this humanity journey inside of the room. And we first go through a process, and we even go through this process with the persons that come to audition. So they can understand this is a different audition that you're coming to do than the normal audition. And this is, we are writing a new blueprint
Exactly.
for audition. It's a safe space. And with us, we create that safe space for that person to feel, but I can be vulnerable, even in the audition space, even with my different ability. In order for us, and even if my disability doesn't show physically, my background also is a disability.
Oh, yeah.
So in that way, we take them through that particular paces in order for them to hold and to give that. So this process is the world of its first in itself, then the opera also in itself. So it's unfolding with us, in front of us. Also, we vary in a sense because I had Adam. And it's his 21st year, and he was 16 when he passed on. So Brenda and I, we shared. Brenda's child's name is Carl. My Adam was transcended through a different world now when he was 16, would have been 21, was also nonverbal, that communicated with me in a different way, but we could understand each other. So, and this particular piece, although it is also scientific, it's the artificial intelligence that comes in. It is about, it's also giving hope to parents with children that is non-speaking, to say there's hope for you. You can love your child unconditionally. And the joy that that child is giving you, it's beyond. And this is what we're holding. So this process is very sacred. It's personal to Brenda and I, but we're giving it out to the world in order for people that is going to watch and experience this to have joy also in their lives.
I was going to ask you guys, what can people look forward to? I'm not asking that anymore. You just you need to do what you need to do and get a ticket, and you go to the website and go get it. But now, I mean, I'm sure there's difficulties, like with in any creative process. You've got the hurdles. I mean, Marlene earlier spoke about the challenges, just having the environment sort of set up, and just small things that other people might be taking for granted. But obviously, you know, this is a holistic approach, and as well as speaking to the end game. But how does this project then fit into your larger approach when it comes to composing?
I mean, I guess for me, you know, composing is, first of all, it's an abstract language. So I think, you know, this level of kind of finding abstraction, finding communication through different senses is something that I live through on an everyday with music. But ultimately, for me, creating music is about creating space. You know, and so very much this process of creating sensorium is a natural extension of creating music. Music is something that convenes people, it's something that gives solace, gives joy. I mean, I actually went as far as creating a space in New York City. It's called National Sawdust. So I'm very, I'm about creating space, and so this feels like a natural extension, you know, in terms of saying for the expansion of the form, really, because the challenges have been that, you know, some people have thought that you can create a story that includes disabled perspectives and not cast people with disabilities. So let's just stop there, right? Like that's a truth. And it's you absolutely cannot do that. So, you know, I think we're attempting to rewrite narratives that that have been around for way too long.
And also that, for instance, when I first came to, because I'm from the rural areas, Wellington, I'm very proud of my background. So my first experience with just, although I always say I'm a lived survivor of apartheid, survivor of polio, survivor of COVID. And, you know, I come with a lot of things. But one of the first things I really experienced also in my face with my art was when I was denied to be on the opera stage. When I've sent in the tape, they fine. I came to the university, they saw I'm disabled, doors closed. And it was opera. Because opera is an intense, it's the orchestra, it's movement, it's singing, it's all of that.
Exclusionary.
It's exclusion. It's like, So immediately, the director just couldn't see me. And that time, it was in the 80s. Now we have this journey.
Yeah.
And
4
we
years
need,
later.
it's how many years is that?
Yeah.
In the 80s, it's like 30 whatsoever years later. We have the opportunity to say, change mindset. Here you are.
Well, and I do want to say about Jaron that, you know, when we were looking for a partner in this, the reason we fell in love with Jaron was because he is a hybrid artist. And I think maybe you could just say a few words, because you live in such an incredible multidisciplinary space.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, Paolo, I have to say though too, is like you come from that world already, and you empower. Talk about empowerment and sustainability. It's yes, you might have invited me, but I had to see you as being the one who can empower and sustainably empower people. And so I just thank you for that already. I will say though that I love art for the reasons that it helped me to extend myself, to feel like I wasn't bound by, you know, I am a product of inspiration to art and being allowed to play as a young kid with a disability. And that changed the trajectory of my life, where I knew now that there's a place and a space for me. And I hope now, someone said that they use their voice in order to make sure that people can have their voice. And I think the same now. I'm totally committed to making art because I was built by art. And so
I love that.
I love that too.
I love it. I love it.
I love it too.
Oh, that's going to be our new phrase.
Yeah, I like it.
Built by art. That's a
That is
t-shirt.
brilliant.
That's a t-shirt.
Built by art.
Because that is inspirational. I mean,
That's
I
a t-shirt.
I said it right on the top of the show. This is exactly, art reflects, like whether it's pop culture, if it's in songs or music, whatever the society is doing, wherever the pulse is, this is a true reflection in art.
Yes.
People, and even when you look at certain productions, and it is a bit exclusive, certain productions, it's got a stigma, but whoever looks at it, sometimes the decision makers, the policy makers, the people who sit with the power to change how we behave with certain things, these are the people, and then they experience it on the stage. So it is absolute, it's almost our duty.
yes.
And it is a very, very difficult baton to carry, but you are doing it anyway.
Well, thank you. And narratives are great to show. Now we're talking about what's behind the scenes, right? Because they're great that opera house that accept patrons to their spaces. They still haven't updated backstages.
No.
Yeah.
The artists with disabilities still can't get into the dressing room.
Yes.
You know, they don't think of them as the creators, as the developers of work, as the performers of work.
Yes.
And so there's another layer wherein we're even saying the timing will be flexible. So how are you saying I include you and then have a dictation about what time they can be artistic?
Yes.
So even with that, we're saying you matter and you are welcome in how we structure our time and how we structure how we even develop, right? Also saying what we get by November 29th is going to be going to work. It's gonna be great.
So, not to give too much away, because the audience is itching, because they want to know. Not to give too much away.
Yeah.
But if you had to encapsulate Sensorium X, what is there that the people can leave with right now?
Yeah.
What would you call? And I want to ask that to all of you. I want to ask that to all of you as a closing thought. What is there that we would?
I'm gonna take the camera now.
Take it. What is there that they could take away?
When you come to Sensorium X, I think that you will get a sense of how to listen like you've never listened before.
Sure. I don't know if I want to ask you guys who's going to beat that.
You know what? Paula has been training me how to say this. We've been working on this.
It's okay, I have something else. Don't worry.
I don't know who wants to go next. I'm not going next.
Oof. Gosh, Marlene, do you want to go or do you?
Sensorium X is just going to give you hope, action, and ability.
Sure. Good luck, Paula.
Always, let's see. I guess, you know, I'm going to say something in the words of our colleague Jakob, who is not here with us today. And he would say to have a voice is everything.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know what to
Now,
say
what are you
to
going to
that.
say now?
Now, what are you going to do now?
Yeah, this is a tough one, but you guys have said it all. Listen, we wish you all the absolute best. We wish you absolutely the best. And firstly, let me just say congratulations. And must be said, congratulations. This is pioneering work. This is phenomenal stuff that you're doing. It is long time. This is where we should be. When we can't say we're inclusive, but we choose to be inclusive. This is the big lesson. So for people to listen like they've never listened before and to feel what they've never felt before, what an experience. And you're only going to get it because of the ArtsAbility Festival. So the details are simple. 29th of this month through till the 3rd of December. Tickets available at artscape.co.za. You go to the website. You can also call the box office and book. Not only is there fantastic productions to look forward to, as we've been talking about Sensorium X, but there's also going to be some brilliant discussions. But most importantly, you've got to be part of this. And I ask you, and I really ask you, and I feel very strongly about this, when we talk inclusivity, when we talk that we take each other by the hand, and more importantly, we talk about the rawest emotions of love, which is what makes the world go round, the bare essence of everything. Not only do you need to go and support this, but also in your daily life, you've got to be more considerate, I would suppose that is it. And what you said earlier, we all have a disability. You might not inherently show the disability, but sometimes you didn't have all the opportunities, and some people call that a disability as well. November is a Disability Awareness Month. We are certainly aware about it, and what you need to do now is go and support it. John, thank you so much. Marlene, as always, the pleasure, the pleasure. Mahala, thank you so much for being with us. On behalf of Rhoda, I will say bye as well. But what you got to do is most importantly is like the show and of course share. So from all our wonderful guests, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. Thank you so much for going on behalf of Rhoda as well, and from the whole team here at MahalaMonday. First ever show we've had at 6 p.m. Isn't it something? So you guys were the first ever. Go down in history. So from Kevin the Fool as well helping us, and Jabbar, our deaf interpreter. Thank you very much for watching. So remember to like and share the show, and more importantly, go check it out. Sensorium X, it's going to be at the Artscape and the ArtsAbility Festival, taking place only here in the Mother City from the 29th through the 3rd of December. Like and share, and from all of us, until next time, look after yourselves and everybody around you, and thanks again for watching. Cheers, everybody.
Yay! Sensorium X!
Oh, that was... What a beautiful interview.